Intaking Bithnua is an Irish text probably composed between the 9th and 10th centuries, the age of full bloom of Hiberno-Christian culture. This dating is possible on the basis of linguistics and comparative, but the oldest editorial staff there was handed down only by a 15th century code, the Book of Mac Carthageria Batch, known as the Book of Lismore, preserved today in the Library of Chatsworth in Derbyshire. He gives here a translation using the appendix, the Irish text, according to the only existing print edition edited by Wheatley Stokes and published in the periodical Iriu in 1905. There are two opera later editors, respectively at the 12th and 15th centuries, which were found in a number of codes, since it long retained a wide reputation. It is plausible that the anonymous author of this biblical apocrypha has had in mind and to some extent used a Filippo-Apocalypse's Syriac Egyptian origin, arrived in Ireland through the Visigothic Spain around the 7th century, then lost. It is also possible that an early version of the text was composed in Latin. Taking Bithnua, literally the language of life new, always renewed life, Bithnua, they say trees and leaves evergreens, denotes the speaking language of the apostle and his might to return to testify among men. In the rich body of Hiberno-Apocrypha Christians, written both in Latin and in Irish between the 7th and 12th centuries. In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth, etc. The high king of the world, who is mightier than any king, higher than any power, fiercer than any dragon, gentler than any child, brighter than suns, holier than any saint, more vengeful than men, more loving than any mother, the only Son of God the Father, hath given to the many tribes of the world this account of the form and creation of the universe. Since the shape that aught visible in the universe possesses was unknown save only to God, since for Adam's race it was a head in a bag and being in a dark house, never having known what shape was on the world, nor who created it, until this account came from heaven to open everyone's sense and intellect, so that the way of life and of salvation might be ascertained and found by souls. For everything was obscure to the eyes of Adam's race, save that they used to see the course of the stars, to wit, of the moon and sun and the other stars, which used to go round every day continually without resting. So they used to see the world's wells and rivers flowing without cessation always at every time. So they used to see the sadness of the earth, and the transient sleep of the light and the fruits at the coming of winter. So they used to see the resurrection of the world, with its warmth and light, with its flowers and fruits, at the rearing of summer. Still they knew not who wrought that, until there came this story of the creation of the world, with its shapes and services as God had arranged them. Obscure, then, was all this until this tale was set forth, until it was revealed by the ever-new tongue, who spake from the roof of heaven above the assembly of Mount Zion. For the concourse of the east of the world was gathered together, to wit, all that were from the mountains of Abian as far as the shores of the Red Sea, and from the Dead Sea as far as the islands of Sabarn. And this was the number of the congregation, 3,485 bishops, and 54,969 kings of the world. Now that assembly lasted to the end of 4 months and a year, to wit, summer, winter, spring, autumn, under 900 awnings of white sheets, with golden diadems, on the summit of Mount Zion. 5,950 tower torches and precious stones were kindled for the illumination of the concourse, so that no storm should at any time hinder it. 250 bishops and 500 priests, and 3,000 other ecclesiastics, and thrice 50 innocent children, and 500 high kings with their army before them. At midnight they would enter Jerusalem with musical voices, and at every nocturne they would come together with melodies of the gladness that is sung in the holy clouds, Gloria in excelsis Deo, etc. Then the hosts of the concourse were going between two plains before them, as this expedition, and the hosts on Mount Zion turned with the music of the gladness, with melodies of angels according to the lawful ranks of the high king. Suddenly thereafter, when it was the end of Easter Eve, somewhat was heard, the sound in the clouds like the noise of thunder, or it resembled the crash of the fire of an oak. Meanwhile there was a thunderous blast, and suddenly was seen the solar glow like a radiant sun in the midst of the sound. That radiant solar glow turned round and round, so that eyesight could not overtake it, for it was 7 times more radiant than the sun. Suddenly after that somewhat was heard, when the eyes of the host were expecting the sound. For they thought that it was a sign of the judgment, somewhat was heard, the clear voice that spake in the language of angels.
Helihabia, etc. That is, hear ye this story, O sons of men. I have been sent by God to hold speech with you.
Suddenly thereafter swooning and fear fell upon the hosts. It was not a frightening without cause, the resonance of the voice was like the shout of an army, save that at the same time it was clearer and plainer than the voices of human beings. It sounds over the multitude like the cry of a mighty wind, which yet was not greater than the converse of friends among them in the ears of each other. And it was sweeter than the melodies of the world. The sages of the Hebrews answered and said,
Let us know from thee thy name and thy substance and thy appearance.
Somewhat was heard, the ever-new tongue spake with an angelic voice.
Net/tire, etc. That is, among the tribes of earth in sooth I was born, and of the conception of man and woman I have been conceived. This is my name, Philip the Apostle. The Lord sent me to the tribes of the heathen to preach to them. 9 times hath my tongue been cut out of my head by the heathen, and 9 times I continued to preach again. Wherefore this is my name with the household of heaven, the ever-new tongue.
The sages of the Hebrews spake,
Let us know from thee what language thou speakest unto us.
I said, that there is the speech of angels.
Quoth he,
And the language which I speak to you is that of all the ranks of heaven. As to beasts of the sea and reptiles and quadrupeds and birds and snakes and demons, they know it, and this is the language which all will speak at the judgment. This, then, is what has driven me to you, to explain to you the wondrous tale, which the Holy Ghost declared through Moses, son of Amram, of the creation of heaven and earth with all that exists therein. For 'tis of the making of heaven and earth that tale tells, even so and of the formation of the world, which has been effected by Christ's resurrection from the dead on this eve of Easter. For every material and every element and every nature which is seen in the world were all combined in the body in which Christ arose, that, in the body of every human being. In the first place is the matter of wind and air. Hence came to pass the afflation of breath in the bodies of men. Then there is the matter of heat and boiling from fire. 'Tis this that makes the red heat of blood in bodies. Then there is the matter of the sun and the other stars of heaven, and 'tis this that makes color and light in the eyes of men. Then there is the matter of bitterness and saltness, and 'tis it which makes the bitterness of tears, and the gall of the liver, and abundance of wrath in the hearts of men. Then there is the matter of the stones and of the clay of earth, and 'tis this that makes the mingling of flesh and bone and limbs in human beings. Then there is in it the matter of the flowers and beautiful hues of earth, and 'tis this that makes the variegation and whiteness of the faces and color in cheeks. All the world arose with him, for the nature of all the elements dwelt in the body which Jesus assumed. For unless the Lord had suffered on behalf of Adam's race, and unless he had arisen after death, the whole world, together with Adam's race, would be destroyed at the coming of doom. And no creature of sea or of land would be reborn, but the heavens, as far as the third heaven, would blaze. Save only 3 heavens of the high welkin, none would abide without burning. There would neither earth nor kindred, alive or dead, in the world, only hell and heaven, had not the Lord come to ransom them. All would have perished thus without renewal. For this,
says Philip,
I have come unto you, that I may declare to you these tidings. For obscure to you is the making of the form of the world, as it hath been recounted of old.
Well, then,
say the sages of the Hebrews,
relate to us some of the innumerable wonders which have happened there. For it is dark to us, unless it be diligently declared to us.
Somewhat was heard, the ever-new tongue, which spake in the language of angels, saying,
Lied, etc. In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth.
And it saith,
And Bill Bain, etc. slow and word to recount through the Hebrews all that is there uttered, that there was no ordering of the colors, that there was no earth with its mountains and its tribes, nor sea with its islands, nor hell with its torments, before he said that these elements should exist, that there were no circuits of the 7 heavens, nor clouds to irrigate the earth, nor spake, nor dispersal of storms, that there were no lands whereon they would pour, that there was neither rain nor snow, that there were neither lightnings, nor blasts of wind, nor thunders, that there was neither course of sun, nor vicissitude of moon, nor variation of stars, that there were no marine monsters, that there was no sea which they would swim, there were no streams, nor herds, nor beasts, nor birds, nor dragons, nor serpents.
The sages of the Hebrews answered,
A query, what was there at that time, since that nothing he has hitherto mentioned existed?
The ever-new tongue answered,
Every creature was with a marvel, to wit, God without beginning, without end, without sorrow, or age, or decay. There was no hour, nor time, nor space that he existed not. He is not younger or older now than at first. There was nothing that was hard for him to do, but he thought a thought, and to that thought there was no beginning. He thought of somewhat nobler that his power might be seen, and his dignity indescribable that was not in any other things, although he himself was it. Suddenly then, after the thought, he created light. This was the light he created, to wit, the circuit of the celestial vault with 9 ranks of angels. 70 was their number of tribes, with the 624 sunny plains, with melodies and beautiful colors such as are upon the 7 shapes of the celestial vault. So, in the same day, he made the circuit of the shapes, to wit, the matter whereof the world was fashioned. For of the shape of the world God first made the shape of a round circle.
Then said the sages of the Hebrews,
Tell us now diligently what arrangements are in the universe, for we are in ignorance and darkness concerning every one of them.
The ever-new tongue answered,
Though ye see it not,
quoth he,
'tis in roundness everything created has been cast according to the shapes of the world. For 'tis in circularity of roundness the heavens have been made round about, and in circularity the 7 seas have been made, and in circularity the earth has been made. And in circularity of roundness the stars traverse the round wheel of the universe, and in roundness of form the souls are seen after issuing from the bodies. And in roundness is seen the circuit of the high celestial vault, and in roundness is seen the orbit of sun and moon. Reasonable is all that, for circular without beginning or end is the Lord, who hath ever been, who will ever be, and who made all those things. Therefore the world has been embodied in a round shape.
said the Hebrew populace.
A question, what was there in the round multiform circuit, which was the material of the universe?
The ever-new tongue answered,
There was,
it said,
in the orbital circuit the material of the universe, to wit, cold and heat, light and darkness, heavy and weightless, wet and dry, high and low, bitterness and mildness, strength and feebleness, roaring sea and noise of thunder, odor of flowers, chant of angels, and pillars of fire. All these, then,
quoth he,
were in the round, multiform cloud which was made of the material of the universe, and 'tis there that this stuff of hell was produced, for hell was not made at once. Not until the archangel transgressed God's will and forsook the law of the king who had created him, together with the innumerable crowd of the angels. Till then,
quoth he,
hell was not made, but its material was stored away in the round, multiform mass out of which the universe was separated, with all the kindreds which exist therein. And if the angels who sinned had remained in the nature in which they had been created, and in the angelic radiance, the material of hell would have been turned into a beautiful, bright kingdom, like unto the kingdom of the holy angels. This, then, is the work of the first day on which God began the making of the world, although it hath been written, He that liveth forever created all things at the same time. Artabil and Alma, etc. God also made the firmament between the waters, and divided the waters which were above the firmament from those that were below the firmament. Then,
quoth he,
God made the wall of the 7 heavens round about with the heavenly waters. For the Lord knew when he created the world that man would transgress the commandment which was declared to him. Therefore, the veil of heaven has been set over against the faces and eyes of men, so that they might not see the blessings of heaven and the throne of God.
the populace of the Hebrews asked,
Point out to us the hidden natures and the mysteries of the 7 heavens, and the 5 zones that surround them.
the ever-new tongue answered,
The 7 heavens, in sooth, around the world, as to which ye ask, are, first, the radiant, bright, cloudy heaven which is nearest to you, where outshines the moon and the scattering of stars. Over this 2 gleaming, filmy heavens with, of angels in them an outbreak of winds. Over these is a cold, icy heaven, bluer than any beautiful color, and 7 times colder than snow, out of which shines the sun. 2 other gleaming, flamed heavens on these, where outshine the fiery stars that put fruitfulness into clouds and sea. A high heaven, fiery, splendid, is above these. 'Tis the highest of them all, on which the circuit of the welkin has been set. A sunny and fiery heaven is that, wherein there are elaborate harmony of melodies, and choirs of angels. Now in the zones of the 7 heavens are hidden the 12 shaking beasts with the fiery heads above them in their heavenly bodies. They blow 12 winds about the world. In the same zones, too, sleep the dragons with breaths of fire, dragons, tower-headed, with diseases on them in their flanks, who bring forth the crash of the thunders and blow lightnings from pupils of eyes. Thus traverse,
he says,
the zones round the heaven, and the heaven hath 7 circuits round the earth. A frigid, icy zone, in the first place, by which seas go down under the convexities of the heaven to the north. Another cold, icy zone which unites the beasts of the sea under seas and under the sides of the earth to the south, in the place where the 9 fiery pillars were put to the south of heaven supporting it. A splendid zone, the great flame of the world's assembly, which nourishes many fruits of the earth, so that it rises around the world on its breasts to the west. 2 beautiful mild zones which are the arenas of the animals that give cold and heat, and which cast an abundance of diseases to the flanks of earth on every side. Magnificent, etc. That is, on the 3rd day God made lakes and many seas, and many kinds of water, and many forms of salt seas, and the circuit of the earth with its plains, and its mountains, and its forests, and its precious stones, and its many kinds of trees.
The sages of the Hebrews asked.
Tell us the many kindreds and secrets of the sea.
The ever-new tongue replied.
In sooth,
He says,
there are 3 waters of sea around the world, to wit, first, a sea with 7 ships under the flanks of the earth, against which hell makes a mighty noise, and against which it raises a cry round the valley. An ocean green and luminous round about the earth on every side, which brings forth flood and ebb, and which casts up many fruits. Then there is the 3rd water, to wit, the floomy sea. Out of the heavens are led 9 winds which arouse it from its sleep. 470 melodies its waves sing after it has been awakened. It makes a noise like thunder out of its wave voice. From the beginning of the world it never ceases from flooding, and yet it was never full save on a Sunday. On Sunday it falls asleep until the thunders of the winds are awakened by the coming of God's Sunday from heaven, and by the harmony of the angels above it. Besides that, there are many kinds of seas around the flanks of earth on every side. A Red Sea, in the first place, with many precious stones, with the brightness of blood, with gilded colors, between the lands of Egypt and lands of India. A sea bright, sandful, with the hue of snow in the north, around the islands of Sabarn. So great is the might of its flood that its waves disperse to the lofty course of the clouds. A black, waveless sea, with the color of a stag beetle, so that no ship that has reached it has escaped from it, save only one boat by the lightness of its course and the strength of its wind. And battalions of beasts, men, have found there. Then there is a sea that is set in the ocean south of the island of Ebion. On the 1st of May its flood grows high, until in winter it goes to ebb. For half the year it is in flood, for the other half always ebbing. Its reptiles and its monsters wail at the time when it takes to ebbing, and they fall into sadness and sleep. At the flood they awake and rejoice, and the wells and rivers and streams of the world increase. Through glens they go, and after a while they come. Now,
saith he,
there are on earth 72 kinds of many-shaped wells. In the first place, the well of Ebion, which always turns to many colors at the time of every single day. From sunrise to terse the hue of snow is on it. A green color, with a changeful hair of serpents, from terse to none. From morn to vesper it is turned into the color of blood. On any mouth that taste it comes neither smiling nor laughter in life. The well of Ashian in Libya causes pregnancy to women who drink of it, though previously they are barren. The well of Crescens in the lands of Dareth, it boils up against parasites and idolaters and all kinds of evildoers. All the mouths that tasted it has impelled to anger and insanity. They speak not afterwards, so that they perish in grief and sadness. The well of Zion here in the lands of the Hebrews has not, without increase. It flows full on Sunday always. It beams at night like the blaze of a sun. More than one can tell and say is the beautiful color which it displays from one canonical hour to another. Never entered the world the taste of oil or wine or honey that is not found there. It resteth not from flood. Its outflow has not been seen on any side. To whomsoever tasted it neither sadness nor grief of mind has come, and he has not been given for death. Then there is a river of water which, the island of torments, and it rises against all the truthless who go round it. They do not escape from it. 4 golden streams are in the glens of Mount Nagwan, with the flavor of wine, with the red color of blood, with the bitterness of sea salt, with sands of gold. The stream alien in the islands of Teb, it always makes a mighty noise like thunder on the night that the Savior of the world was born in the lands of the Hebrews, and as ye should hear tonight in the night that Christ has risen from the dead. 365 kinds of melodies, this is what resounded there. Whoever has beheld it in ear hath not spoken of it in any night for long afterwards. 'Tis shown that it is from heaven it makes a noise. Then,
quoth he,
there are 4 kinds of precious stones in the same stream with the sense and likeness of humans. The stone adamant in the lands of India, though it be taken in winds and ice and snow, not the colder is ill for this. The fires and embers be let fall upon it, there is no heat therein. Though it be struck with axes and sledgehammers, nothing breaks off it in consequence. Save the blood of the Lamb without the mass, there is nothing at which it breaks. Every king who has taken it in his right hand before going to battle has routed his foe. The stone high being in the lands of Hab flames in the pitch darkness of night like a torch of fire. It spills every poison out of the vessel into which it is put, if it find poison there before it. Every snake that approaches it, or goes across it, dies forthwith. The stone of Istin in the lands of Libya is found in the brains of dragons, to wit, after their death. It seeds the waters in the great lakes into which it is put, so that they boil over the lands. It shines against water, and in winter it resounds like thunder. On the 1st of May it makes a noise like winds. The stone of Fans in the lands of Ar roll out of the stream of Dara. 12 stars are seen in its side, and the orbit of the moon, and the fiery circuit of the sun. It is always found in the hearts of the dragons that pass across under the sea. Whoever holds it in his hands, till he has put it from him, utters no falsehood. Neither number nor multitude is capable of bringing it into a house, wherein there is a parasite or an idolater. At the house of every mittens it sounds a sweet melody, the like whereof is not under heaven.
the wise men of the Hebrews and the populace asked,
We pray thee to tell us the diverse kinds of trees which were planted by God at the creation of the world.
The ever-new tongue answered,
Good right ye have to put that question, for there are 4 of those trees into which soul and reason are gone like the life of angels. The tree Sames, in the first place, at the meeting of Jur and Dan, produces 3 crops of fruit every year. A bright green crop is its first crop, red is its middle crop, shining is the last. When the first crop is ripe, then grows another out of its flowers. Every demented person who has tasted that fruit becomes sane in his mind. Since it was created, no leaf has fallen from it. Everyone with a blemish or disease who lays himself in its shade puts his ailments from him. The tree of life in Adam's paradise, whatever mouths have tasted its fruit have not afterwards gone to death. Wherefore, because of that tree Adam and Eve were exiled from paradise. For if they had tasted the fruit of that tree, death would not at any time have visited them, but they would have been alive forever. 12 crops it produces every year, to wit, a beautiful crop in every month. A journey of 7 summer days the odor of paradise extends, and its shade covers. The tree Alab in the islands of Sab, its state is like unto the form of man. The flower that it warreth quells every disease and every poison. A journey of 6 summer days the odor and the scent of its flowers extend before they are reached. Precious stones are the kernels of its fruit. It quells anger and envy from every heart over which its juice has passed. The tree Nathabel, in the lands of the Hebrews here in the south of Mount Zion, not far from you is it on the south of the mountain on which ye are. Hitherto from the beginning of the world no sons of men found it save on the one day when a tree was sought for crucifying Christ, so that from its branches was brought the shaft of the cross by which the world has been saved. 7 crops it yields and 7 flowers it changes in every year. To any man who has tasted its fruit neither disease nor tribulation came, provided he eat it before death attended him in his bed, but ahead in sleep. Never came on earth aught of honey, oil, or wine that would attain on resemblance of its savor. The radiance of moon and sun and the shining of stars shines out of its blossoms. From the beginning of the world its leaves and its blossoms sing together 72 kinds of melodies at the approach of the winds. 365 birds with the luster of snow, with all golden wings, with shining eyes, which from its branches sing many melodies in many tongues. We know that it is lawful language that they sing together, save that the ears of men do not recognize it.
said the sages of the Hebrews.
O Lord, save that we dare not, It is hard to believe much of what is announced to us.
Somewhat was heard, the ever-new tongue.
Etc. That is a patient thing.
Quoth he,
Is the gracious heart of the King of heaven, in that he doth not spill the earth for the deed of every hour into the depths of torments, after all the blasphemy of him, and the insults and hostilities which everyone's tongue lets forth before him. Why see ye not,
quoth he,
that it was harder to believe in the horned beast, which the sea brought to the strand of Cephas on the eve of Christ's nativity in the lands of the Hebrews? Streams of wine flow from its lips before death. The host of the island, who looked upon it, supposed that it was a mountain or a high island that lighted on the strand. A stream burst out of the cheek, as if out of a vessel, and made out of its lips 50 and 300 white-faced horns out of its head in front. 56 times as far as the eye could reach was the length of the shape on the strand of Cephas. There is room in each of those horns for the drink of 150. They remain till today in your cities.
quoth he,
It were no harder to believe this tale than to believe and accept his commandments. A bird of enormous size named YESHUA is in the lands of India. Such is the size of its form, that the shadow of its wings, when it expands them, extends to a journey of 3 winter days by seas of lands. It speeds on the wing hunting for the monsters in the sea. Mountains of sand and gravel are what warm the egg that it deposits therein after laying. A gallery with sails and oars is built out of half of that egg after breaking it. 7,000 soldiers with their weapons and their provisions is what it carries over sea. And there is a great multitude of this host in this assembly here, which came in the half of that egg over the Red Sea. Do not, like a child in a dark house, show any unfaith to God concerning the abundance of his miracles.
Suddenly then, afterwards, a warrior of the tribe of Judah rose up out of the assembly in the east, to wit, the son of Habs, son of Gomer, son of Salah, son of Judas Iscariot, who betrayed his Lord, the son of malediction from old times. He arose and said, A false thing, quoth he, is the tree with the birds of golden wings, and with the melodies, of which this person has told us. Meseems that it never came to pass. A question, what would have hidden from everyone's eyes the tree in the middle of the field? He turned wither skins before the host of the assembly, southwards in the southern part of Mount Zion. And forthwith he saw somewhat, the fiery cloud. The cloud dissolved before his eyes. And then he saw the tree with its beautiful fruits. Its blossoms were shining like a sun. After this he heard the harmony, in the many languages, of the all-golden radiant birds and of the beautifully colored leaves against the voices of the winds. Suddenly then the sinful eyes endured not to look at the holy hues. His eyes burst in his head. Again, then, goes to him the blast of a fiery wind, and it went into his breast and into his face, so that they became as black as a stag beetle. And it struck him half dead again in the middle of the assembly. And he said, Eni Julia fast, etc. That is, I am a twisted, faithless. And he said, Hard are the torments that are before me and that await me. A thing of longing is the fair plain I beheld, that no one ever saw before. Blasphemy we have uttered, woe to him that has done it. Scarcely had he spoken when he falls dead on the earth. To read all the hosts of the assembly arise, and they did penance, and this they were saying, O my holy Lord, for sake of thy mercy, and because of the fragility of the matter whereof we have been made, let not wrathful reproach fall upon our unfaith. Willful crimes we have committed. But dark before our eyes was the strange things we knew not. Somewhat was heard, the ever-new tongue.
Etc. If all your relatives, both sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, were put to the sword, and then places on cooking hearths that you might eat their flesh, it were 7 times easier to forgive that crime than any blasphemy of God and unfaith as to his elements and his miracles. For if there be any reviling of God and unfaith as to his elements, and the Trinity and the marvels that God has wrought, there is neither in heaven nor on earth a turning of repentance which heals anyone from it, but abiding ever and endlessly in the depths of torments.
The sages of the Hebrews asked, saying,
Tell us what thou hast begun.
Somewhat was heard, the ever-new tongue.
Altifus, etc. That is, God created, on the 4th day, the 72 kinds of the wandering stars of heaven, with the fiery circuit of the sun, which warms the world, with the swiftness of wind, with the sets and splendor of angels. 12 planes under the flanks of earth it illumines in the of every night that circuit against which the fiery sea laughs, and the circuit at which troops of angels meet and rejoice after the brightness of night.
The sages of the Hebrews asked,
Tell us of those 12 planes that are under the flanks of the earth, and against which the sun shines for light every night, since knowledge thereof is obscure to us.
Then the ever-new tongue answered,
This is the way the sun goes in the eve of every night. In the first place he illumines the transparent stream with tidings of the eastern waters. Then he illumines the ocean of fire at night and the seas of sulphurous fire around the red tribes. Then he shines on the host of the children in the pleasant fields, who sent the cry towards heaven for dread of the beast that kills many thousand of hosts under waves in the south. Then he shines on the mountain with streams of fire which traverse the plains, with the hosts of guardian demons in them. Then shine the ribs of the great beast at which the 24 champions arise, glen of the torments. Thereafter he, the sun, shines over against the awful, many-trooped fence which has closed round of the hell dwellers in the north. He shines in the dark glens with the sad streams over their faces. So he illumines the ribs of the beast that distributes the many seas around the flanks of the earth on every side, that sucks in the many seas again till it leaves the shores dry on every side. Then he illumines the fiery mountain, which has been formed of the fire of doom, every element. Then he illumines the many beasts who, from the beginning of the world, sleep the tearful sleep in the glen of the flowers. Then he shines on the gloomy tearful plain with the dragons that were set under the mist. Then he illumines the flocks of the birds, which sing together the many melodies in the glens of the flowers. Thereafter he shines on the radiant plains with the white flowers that irradiate the glen. After this he shines against Adam's paradise, till it rises up from the east in the morning. Now if the sun had a tongue to make them manifest, there would have been many tidings which he would relate on his journey.
A question.
Say the folk of the Hebrews and the many kindreds.
The stars that thou hast shown to us previously, what nature is in them? And the nature of all the stars is alike, as seems to us.
Then the ever-new tongue replied,
Truly the nature of the stars is not like. In the first place the 10 stars of Cubwain, trembling takes them, and manes of fire are put over their face to foretell a plague or mortality on earth. The other stars that surround the world from the hour of terce through none. Then it falls into a trance until the same hour comes. Other stars, too, bring great heat or great cold or great moisture on earth. Other stars, then, they run to urge on the dragons that blow on the world. Other stars, then, they run to the end of 50 years and then seek a time for sleeping. When they fall asleep, they let fiery sea in the glens of the tears. To the end of 7 years they sleep, when they awake at the shout of the holy angels and at the voices of the dragons that dwell near the glen. Other stars run the 6 days and the 6 nights until the Sunday comes. When the beginning of Sunday arrives, they commence many melodies and fall asleep until God's Sunday follows from heaven. Then they went upon the same course. Alleluia, folks, etc. That is, on the 5th day God created 72 kinds of flocks of birds, and 72 kinds of beasts of the sea, each kind of them with its form and custom and nature separately. In the first place, the birds of the island knit both. There shineth not on the floor of earth a color or splendor that they do not radiate from their wings. They let their tears fall at cold and snow. They rejoice at the heat and beauty of summer. They always awake at midnight, and chant together string-sweet melodies. The birds of Sabs, their wings shine at night time like torches of fire. Whatever disease their wings, when flying or their shadow visits, is left cured. In the season of winter and cold they fall into a trance of deadness till they awake at Mayday. In their sleeps they sing a gentle high song, like the thunder of wind. The birds of Abad and the islands between the east of Africa and the sky. Never came on earth a beautiful color that they do not radiate out of their pinions. Never from the beginning of the world has fallen a quill or a feather out of their wings, and never has their complement or their number been increased. The odor and fragrance of the flowers and the taste of the 7 wine rivers that traverse the bright plains, this is what satisfies them from the beginning of the world. They rest not from chanting melodies, and they were never weary till midnight came with the song of the angels out of the cloud. Then the 3 bird flocks are divided, 2 birds and 70,000 in each bird's flock. At midnight the first flock upraise their cry, and they chorus praise to God in melody, and tell of the marvels, mystic, innumerable, hidden which not even the angels of heaven know. Then the middle bird flock arises with a threefold melody, in admiration of the wonders which the Lord has wrought from the beginning of the world till doom. Thereon, at the end of the night, comes the last bird flock. They describe with a song of sevenfold melody the noises that will enter the world at the dread of doom. And after this they relate the subtuagenary distribution of the punishments with those that shall deserve them. And they tell of the 72 seats of the beautiful houses in the heavens which will be given to all that shall deserve them. Adversaire, Alba, etc., that is, Adam's race, if they should hear the music of those birds, would not be in gladness or gratitude that they were severed from hearing it, but in longing and grief till they die in wailing. If Isaiah, etc., that is, let us make man in our own image and likeness, and let him rule over the fishes of the sea and the birds of heaven, and the beasts of all the earth. Such is the versatility of the might of the Lord that, after the trespass, there are 24 forms in Adam's race. In the first place, the champions of the island area. 56 feet are laid in the length of each shape of them. They awake not from their sleep, except for a sea storm, or the shout of a battle or an army, or the sound of melodies. When they arise out of their sleep, their eyes shine like the radiance of stars. They, in the seas wherein they are, so that the beasts and monsters of these seas are cast ashore to satisfy them. Fair, very flammy tribes in the islands of Adab. Flames of fire come out of their mouths at the fury of anger. Their eyes shine like torches of fire at night. Their hair and their bodies beam like snow which is cast into great whiteness. Fish from many seas, without cooking, without broiling, this is what feeds them. The tribes of Ithir north of Mount Caucasus. Their mouths are in their breasts, there are 4 eyes in their backs. Lust and great heat arc in their bodies, so that, where mankind of no other nation has endured them. Other radiant tribes in the lands of Asser. Nobler than every kindred is the sight of their faces. So great is the harmony of their utterances that the noise of their host is sweeter than any melodies. The tribes of the south of India, with the smallness of their shape, the longest of them only attain to the length of the women that are in the mountains of Armenia. Greater are their forms than those of any humans. They bring forth daughters only. Harder than those of any men are their angers and their valors in going to battle. At midnight they rise from their sleep, out of their mouths they loose flashes of fire. Their beards reach as far as their navels. After their birth, gold that is brighter than every blaze is always found in their right hands. The tribes of Arkansas phones in the lands of Libya. The pupils of their eyes flame in anger like sparks of fire. The pupils of their eyes flame in anger like sparks of fire. Not enough of men can come about one of them to overpower him by force. So great are the loudness and sweetness of their voices that they are louder than any voices and horns. At death they pour forth from their mouths a stream of wine. In their sleep they sing a plaintive melody to which nothing like has been found. Many shapes besides those have been set on Adam's race after the fall. For the first man God made at the beginning he created in his own form and likeness, and so would have been the children born of Adam had he not transgressed.
The sages of the Hebrews asked,
Tell us in order the number of the kinships which God has put upon his creatures.
That in sooth shall be reckoned for you.
quoth he,
To wit, 72 kinships of beasts under seas, 72 flocks of birds in the air, 72 kinships of beasts under forest, 72 kinships of snakes that crawl on mold, 72 kinships of fruits of the woods, 72 kinships of the faces of stars that have been cast around under heaven, 72 kinships of the anguishes of the torments in the hells, 72 kinships of the melodies and bright abodes in heaven, 72 kinships of the languages and the tongues of men, 72 kinships of humans of Adam's race, insomuch that, according to the number of tribes, this is their number, 157 tribes throughout the world. And under the world are many submarine tribes.
said the sages of the Hebrews.
Tell us of the place of confinement in hell which God has designed for punishing the sinners.
The ever-new tongue answered,
'Tis hard, indeed,
quoth he,
to declare it. Even though I should commence from the beginning of the world to announce it, I should not have related before doom all the trouble about which you ask as it really is. First, such is the size of the glen and its depth. Though the bird whose flight is swiftest and strongest should set out, it could hardly reach its bottom at the end of 1,000 years. Celestial living, etc., I know not.
quoth he,
Which of the two is the more numerous, all the sands under seas, or all the kinds of monsters for mangling the souls in hell? So vast is the greatness of the despair and the pains that they are unable to utter the name of God, for grief and hopelessness through the immensity of the pains and through their multitude. So vast is the greatness of the fire and the burning and the heat that if all the waters of the world, both clouds and streams and rivers and seas around the earth, were poured into the glen of the pains, they would not quench it, for it is the wrath of God that seethes in the hells. So vast is the greatness of the exceeding cold that, if a breath of cold like it were cast into the world by the hole of a pipe, all the birds in the air, and the beasts under seas, and every living animal it would find on earth would die. Such is the splendor of the fire that, if some of it were cast by a pipe, all the waters found on the earth would ebb before it, and the animals found there would burn with them, of the ground all about them. Such is the extent of the darkness that, if some of it were cast into the world, as much as the pupil of a man's eye, all the birds in the air and the human beings and the beasts on the earth would see neither splendor nor light for death. Such is the greatness of the stench in the lakes of the torments. If one particle of it were placed on the beasts of the world, all the beasts it would find in the world, both in sea and on land and in air, would all perish. Such is the greatness of the hunger and the thirst there that, if some of it were cast for a single hour into the world, all that it would find therein, both beasts and men and birds, would perish at the same hour from hunger and thirst. Such is the greatness of the fear which the souls suffer before the torments that, if a particle of fear like it were to come into the world, all the animals found in the seas and airs and earth would be thrown into insanity and senselessness by terror, so that they would die thereof. Such is the greatness of the grief and the sorrow and the sadness, that if some of it were cast through a pipe into the world there would be no warmth nor pleasure therein, nor faces of friends, nor welcome, nor wine which would them, so that every heart which it would visit would die with grief and wailing. Though then I should undertake the labor, but even though I should not cease declaring it, I should not declare it all before doomsday. A place wherein no voice was heard in ears, save woe and fear and grief. A place wherein there was no pause for consolation, nor appearance of joy on face. A place wherein there has not been honor, nor respect, nor a friend's comforting, nor a gentle word, but abundance of sulphurous fire, and of stinking winds, and plenty of fiery dark snow with bitter cold, chattering of teeth, smothering of faces, stifling of breaths, abundance of fits of coughing, affliction of hand smitings, dropping down of tears, sadness of groans, fearfulness of hearts, horror of forms, ministration of torments, and their unmercifulness and their shamelessness and their disgrace. There is burning on every side, there is threatening on every side there is wailing and screaming.
The sages of the Hebrews asked,
Tell us of the day of judgment, and how the world will be destroyed, and at what time?
The ever-new tongue answered,
The judgment about which ye ask.
Quoth he,
It is unpleasant even to mention it, for even angels of heaven are wont to have trembling and terror when it is remembered and kept in mind. For matter of great trembling and terror is the bursting of the 365 ranges of fiery mountains on earth before the face of the great King, whose might will destroy the world. The tottering and crashing of the 5 heavens at bowing them to earth. The rising and roar of the 7 fiery winds out of the poles of heaven at the noise and approach of thunder and lightning on every ear. The thundering of the falling of the 3,375 stars out of heaven. The moon turning into the color of blood. The sun destroying its light. Such will be the number of the host of heaven on that day that no one, save God only, will have power that his eye should comprise them or be able to count them. The laying low of the forests and the mountains by the fiery tempest on every side. The crying of the beasts and of all the living creatures of the earth. The hurling down of fire on every land. The screaming of the birds in the air at the streams of fire. The roaring of the monsters and the fish in the seas at the ebbing of the oceans and before the heating of the fire. The coming of the 9 ranks of heaven, and the shout and carousing of the souls as they go to meet their bodies out of the mold. The wailing and shout of the sinners complaining to the Lord, whom they have tormented. And for them it will be a cry to the waste. It will be repentance too late. The shout of the dwellers in hell at casting forth the souls to the assembly, that judgment be passed on everyone according to his merit. The crashing together of the 7 heavens at being thrown down through blasts of fire. The shaking of the earth at being turned up and over. The wailing and shout of the devils in the souls of the sinners, when hell is locked upon them to the end of doom.
The sages of the Hebrews asked at what time, by day or by night, the world was created, or will be destroyed, and the Lord arose from the dead. The ever-new tongue answered,
At midnight.
quoth he,
The Lord arose, and the world was created. And at midnight was made the circle that was the material of the world. And at midnight the enemy, even the devil, was banished from heaven. And at midnight was made the shape of man in paradise. At midnight Cain committed the first parricide that was committed in the world. At midnight sulphurous fire was cast on the 5 cities on which the sea of fire is inflicted forever. At midnight the flood began to pour upon the world. At midnight the of the Lamb was celebrated at Ramesses in Egypt. At midnight God's people went through the Red Sea, and Pharaoh with his hosts was drowned. At midnight Babylon was overcome. At midnight the Savior of the world was born at Bethlehem of Judah. And at midnight he was crucified because of the sin of Adam and his race, for great darkness of night came over the world from Tirs to Nun. At midnight a troop of angels came over the islands of Sab, and scattered mortality over the world. At midnight the Lord came to harry hell, and loosed the souls from the anguish and the misery wherein they had been, and bound the enemy and the destroyer of the elements, and the robber and the thief, and the old plunderer, even the devil, in the depths of hell. At midnight the material of the world was formed. At midnight it will be destroyed. As to the Lord who arose from the dead on this eve of Easter, unspeakable is his power and his might, and his dignity, and his deeds, and his services and his creatures from the beginning of the world to the end of doom. For all the beasts under seas, and birds in the air, and cattle and wild animals and men on earth, and angels in the heavens, and devils in hell, though they should commence from the beginning of the world, they would not, before the judgment, have declared 1/7 of the works of God. Such is the fearfulness of his wrath, in the first place, that if his mind were vexed and rose up against the household he has made, the earth dwellers would not endure that wrath. For if he should shew his face with anger, the heavens would be cast on the earth, and the seas around the world would ebb, and the earth would perish so that nothing would remain thereon. The kingdom of heaven and the angels would be cast into a trance, so that they would not appear in any place. Hell would increase, so that its torments would be 7 times greater than they are. For it is the wrath of God that seethes in the hells. Of all things what were more marvelous than the infant sleeping between the Virgin's arms, while the elements, and even the angels, trembled, and the heavens and earth with its inhabitants, and the monsters in the seas, and the dwellers in hell, for dread of his might and for exemption from being tormented. Such are the beauty and effulgence of his face that if all the souls in hell were to look on the splendor of his countenance they would not perceive trouble, nor pain, nor punishment in hell. Such is the holiness of his form that no one who would look at his countenance would be able to sin afterwards. Such are the effulgence and splendor and light of his face that when the 9 ranks of heaven shine forth, and every one of those angels is 7 times more radiant than the sun, and the souls of the saints shine with the same likeness, and when the sun is brighter 7 times than now, the effulgence of the face of the great King, who has made every elemental angels and stars of heaven, and the souls of the saints, even as the light of the sun and his radiance surpass the other stars. Such is the versatility of his power that, though all the angels in heaven, and devils in hell, and men on earth and beasts and whales under seas were to speak to God, and the language which each of them spoke were different, it would be easy for God in the same hour to answer each of those creatures in its own several tongues and in its own nature. Such is the beauty of the Lord's form that, if it were manifested, and if it were cast into the hells, they would be turned into the radiances and into the luster of heaven, like the celestial kingdom. Such then are the hue and effulgence of his face that were told to every impure soul to which God has given to reward of his desire his death step into the infernal abode. Harder would it be than any torment which the souls suffer, to wit, faring forth from God's countenance, and eternal separation from beholding his face, harder than all the crosses and many torments of hell. As the Lord is unspeakable, so his kingdom and his blessedness are as unspeakable as he is. Sweetness of melodies, welcome of faces, beauty of forms, splendor and flaminess of the hosts, purity of thoughts, innocence of souls, a place in which was heard no voice of anger, nor envy, nor grief, nor trouble. Long lived, then, are they who are called to that realm, when the Lord will say to them, Come, ye blessed ones of my Father, possess the kingdom that has been prepared for you since the beginning of the world, where the light of the sun or the moon or the stars is not seen, but the Lord will be the light, because he himself is the fountain of light, where will be health, and calm of seas, and great peace and unconquerable charity, where life is eternal, where old age will not appear, where delight will be received, where feelings will be made clear, where there is a paradise sweet and abundant, and splendor of angels, and brightness of justice, and a royal palm, and golden rivers, and melodious praise of angels, and meetings of all the saints, where there is the heavenly Jerusalem, and neither grief nor sadness after joy, but everlasting happiness, where good never has been, is, or will be absent. To man, what will be more wondrous than that kingdom, where neither poverty, nor nakedness, nor hunger, nor thirst will be seen, where no eager desire or compulsion of raiment or food will degrade, but he will be at the great ordained banquet forever and ever in the presence of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost? Where there are the three lights the best we read of, the light of the King, who bestows the kingdom, the light of the saints on whom it is bestowed, the light of the kingdom that is bestowed there.
May we all attain to that kingdom. May we deserve it. May we dwell therein in secula seculorum. Amen.
Said the ever-new tongue to the tribes of the Hebrews.
A danger to you is the rivalry which ye have with God, and O wretched ones, ye will turn from your rivalry wher, body and soul, pledged to him in the stinking, fiery prisons of the torments. For the perfect, all golden very God has made all the marvels and many various kindreds we have mentioned, both men and birds and sea monsters and animals, and has established the seven heavens in the whole world, both air and earth, lyra and water. And 'tis he that banished Lucifer with his legions of angels, owing to his arrogance and their pride, and 'tis he that saved Adam with his children from hell. And mighty Christ has saved the people of Moses from Egypt, and David from Goliath, and Joseph from the prison. And 'tis he that saved all the ghostly fathers and prophets and bishops and martyrs and confessors and saintly women from torments at the hands of the Pharisees and the Jews, with whom they were in captivity. O wretched ones!
It said,
It is impossible for me to reckon all the marvels and many various kindreds in the world, which the King of the angels has recounted.
the ever-new tongue was holding converse with the tribes of the Hebrews during the day. And it seemed to them all that during that time not a single hour of the day had come, because of their delight in listening to it. For the sound of the sweetness of the utterance was such that every speech that it made to them was likened to the music of angels. Thereafter the ever-new tongue said to them,
For your instructions I have been sent by Christ.
The tribes of the Hebrews said,
For having hearkened to you, we give glory to God.
The ever-new tongue said,
If all the tongues of the world were it, they could not cover the greatness of the Creator's goodness. And, O wretched men, do not attempt to understand the powers of the High King.
Thereafter the ever-new tongue bade them farewell. And the tribes of the Hebrews departed to their cities with exceeding gladness and with great joy. And everything that had been said to them was written down by them. And that instruction which the ever-new tongue gave was the beginning of the faith. Finu. I trust that this manuscript on the manifestation of the creation has been a great blessing to you as it was me when I first encountered it. Having now read it multiple dozens of times, I believe it to be one of the most relevant texts that I've ever rediscovered on the topic of not only the biblical geocentric cosmology, but the prophetic end of days. Its commentary on the second advent of Yahushua is linked to the harvests of souls and determination of whether one will be counted in number amongst the elect or that of the children of perdition is also priceless an interpretation. The distinction of whether one will be numbered amongst the wheat or the tares aligns and premise with another trilogy which I have been working on and will complete following the publication of this book, called The Great Contest. For those that are seeking to better understand the bigger picture of how the theme of the First World Age and the spiritual election of humanity ties together with the angelic rebellion, war in heaven, physical incarnation of the sons of God into fallen flesh form, and battle of light and darkness, good and evil, and the Holy Trinity with Satan and Legion. I cover in great detail all of these themes and unified concept even as it plays out now between the masses and New World Order elites. Studying this work, I pray that you are better able to understand just how grand the delusion of our indoctrination into the matrix really is and why the children of the devil went to such lengths to eradicate, exclude, extirpate, and counterfeit truth as connected to the worldview, calendar, and holy days. They have for thousands of years been laying the groundwork and preparation for the coming of the Antichrist. May Yahweh Elohim bless you in your seeking and discernment, so that you will not bend the knee to this false alien deceiver.